Good morning, everyone. I hope this finds you well. We're just about to start a webinar on street pitches, which we're supposed to be doing today in town. I think you would have already received quite a bit of material on what they are and how they're supposed to be structured and how things are supposed to be done. But I thought I would take you through. Sorry about that. I'll take you through. There's a bit of feedback, I think. I'll take you through the material that I was talking about that you should have already received by now. And sort of just try and give a bit more information and background and just generally help you understand how they're supposed to be undertaken and why they're supposed to be undertaken and why we're doing this. You see, when you look at startups and how things have been built so far, I believe we've borrowed a lot of concepts and methodologies from first world countries in terms of how startups are structured, how they're built, how pitches are even done, right? The entire structure, the whole thing to do with elevator pitches, and which is well and fine. But then when you're building a technology company or leveraging on some form of technology, especially in the African context, just having that technology isn't enough. It finds value when it has contextual applications. So it's not that you have cool technology and algorithms, it's how those algorithms are making people's lives simpler, better, cheaper, faster, and more efficient. And so it only makes sense within the context or in which it is being used. And so when you look at the pitches that startups sometimes give as founders at events and things like that, you find that a good number of them sort of go or lean towards highly technical statements or your general buzzwords with regards to how things have been pitched out there, right? But you're trying to build a product for the African context. So you sort of have to figure out how to make sure that people within our environment actually understand what this is about and how it's supposed to work and how it applies to them. So our trying to do startup street pitches it's an effort to help founders figure out a way to communicate their value, to communicate their startups to individuals on the street. So these are your average Zimbabweans who are going about their day. They might not understand what startups actually about or what technology is. They understand their problems and they understand what they're willing to pay for and what they think is rubbish. I mean, we've had a lot of arguments about how a lot of people think that, most tech entrepreneurs believe that apps will solve everything, right? So an application in itself is not the solution, it's just the means, it's the channel through which you're supposed to deliver your value. So street pitches are essentially meant to force or help founders get to that point where they're able to distill and crystallize their value and their pitch into a very simple and basic form of sort of language structure that even the layman can understand. And then from there, it sort of helps them then build a more complicated or a variant pitch depending on their different contexts. So whether you're pitching to an investor or you're not pitching to, to a potential partner or whatever it is. The other thing is as well is that, so we've been doing pitch nights, I think this is the second month. And as we prep founders for this, we realize that founders are generally very nervous because they feel they're I mean, there are a whole lot of factors, right? So they feel that they're going to be judged or they're trying to understand how the audience is going to react and things like that. It is my firm belief that by doing street pitches, you also get to a point where you realize that the pitch in itself isn't about you. It's about the value that you are creating. So now you're going to pitch to, 50 strangers, right? And you're trying to get them to either sign up or to give you some form of currency, be it an email address or a sign up or whatever it is. But by doing so, you're going to realize that these people really care more about what you're saying. And if they're actually stopping to listen to what you're saying, it's because they believe that you have some value that you have. So it's not about you and how you look and how you sound, but it's more about what you're saying and how you're saying it and how straightforward and to the point it is. So that's sort of part of what we're trying to do. And it's also, I think, an effort to try and get more of the community within Blythe involved in what these entrepreneurs and the startups are doing, because so far it has been a very closed ecosystem. So as we begin to interact more with the public, we sort of get to understand what problems they are facing and build solutions that these people actually want to use. So I'm going to just share. I'm going to share my screen just now. All right. So, and then I'm just going to go through the slides this way. So, this first document is basically talking about what street pitches are and how we're kind of going to be doing them essentially. This is the pilot, so I know a lot of this is going to change as we go, but this is sort of the base band of it. Right. So what are street pitches, right? So these are, as I was saying, it's our way of taking the startups and all this, the stuff that we've been building to the average person out there and getting actual feedback from them, getting them to stop and listen and actually give you feedback and give you some form of currency, whether it's a sign up, whatever it is. So it's also an opportunity for people to actually acquire potential customers, because each entrepreneur is going to be focusing on their target or assumed target customer. So you are trying to figure out where they are, where they stay, or where they probably work from, and then going there and doing your pitches in that vicinity, hoping to get more of them, right? So the aims, right, as I was saying, to help entrepreneurs communicate their products and value in the simplest manner possible, to also develop contextual pitching and communication skills through immediate feedback from the general public. So these are people who really don't know you, they don't care about what you're doing, they simply want to tell you, as it is, what they think, what they feel about what you have just said to them, right? Also to boost the confidence of the entrepreneurs, and to help us build products that Zimbabweans and Africans actually want to use, not just to build applications because they sound nice or they feel or seem innovative in context or in principle. Right. And then as well, accelerating the whole customer acquisition process, because once you get to building a startup, you sort of get wrapped around the whole building of the product, and now getting it back to the market becomes this daunting task, and you're anxious as to whether people are going to use it or not. So this is also sort of an opportunity to get people to start onboarding those customers, even if the product isn't complete, and if it's not finished, to the level of perfection that entrepreneurs might be looking for. Right. So how to do the street pitch? So it's sort of broken down. So there's the pre-pitch. So it's essentially you preparing for the pitch itself. So you review and identify what is your target market and what your customer looks like. And we've talked about customer archetypes. So it's basically using that archetype to sort of figure out where these people congregate or where they work from within the CBD, and then going to that sort of area, right? And then also setting basic parameters around your street pitch. So how many pitches do you want to deliver, right? And what is the point? So are you trying to do customer acquisition? Is it practice? Why are you doing it? And what is the currency that you want to get in return, to say this was a successful pitch and these 7 I did them, but I got nothing out of them. So what is that measure of success in terms of the pitch? And so I know a good number are going to be using actual signups. Others are simply just going to be collecting um, user information, so names, emails, phone numbers, and others I think are probably going to try and actually sell a product. So see if people are going to pre-order or pre-pay for a particular service, which I think is going to be pretty interesting. So that's sort of the first part. Then also, of course, you move into setting up your pitch strategy. So the strategy is basically breaking down your pitch into saying, how am I going to break it down? When I meet an individual, how am I going to introduce myself? How am I going to say A, B, C, D, E? And then sort of the structure of that pitch. And naturally, this is going to change. And there are a few tips that are there that we'll talk about just now that I've also sort of put together, right? And then from there, you need to register your startup for the street pitch as well, so that we can track what you're doing and sort of help you and sort of locate you within the CBD and see how you're doing, and if you need any help or assistance and things like that. And to do that, so there's a link that has already been sent to you to form. So you need to use that form to sign up and add your startup to it. Street pitches are supposed to run between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So it's 10 a.m. to give you enough time to sort of prepare if you're printing a few flyers or whatever it is. And then it's not supposed to take the whole day. It's simply supposed to be an accelerated activity that you undertake, and then from 2 o'clock, to around 4 or 5, looking at the stuff that you've learned, you're distilling this. If you're changing your pitch deck, if you're changing your traction slide, or if you're getting back to the people who've actually signed up, you spend the rest of the day doing that. Right. And so that's sort of where your post-pitch period comes in, where you're now looking at that data and saying, what have we learned? What do we need to change? And if you're doing this as a team or as individuals, you're now regrouping to saying, guys, I did it this way and I found that this works and that actually works. And I'm hoping a good number of people are going to come up and also do 1 or 2 webinars about what they learned from the street pitches themselves. And that's also the altering of the pitch structure and the deck, as I was saying. Right. So Your pre-pitch, you're setting your target market, as I was saying, your definition of done. So, which is your actual currency? So, what is the value that I'm getting from this person to say this was great? So, the pitching material. So, are you using flyers? So, you might be trying to pitch to drivers, for example. So, you might not have the 5 minutes or the 2 minutes to pitch to them, and so you're looking at a strategy where you're able to get the details and pitch to them later or whatever it is. So, you just need to make sure you have that material, and then naturally the registration. Then the actual pitch, it should not be more than 2 minutes. So it's supposed to be, it's more like an elevator pitch, but trying to get people to actually engage with you and give you more information, right? Before you start pitching, so you don't just walk up to a person and just start, blabbering out stuff. You need to introduce yourself and ask, if they have a minute to just listen to something that you're trying to work on. And it's always best if you're putting it across as you're trying to figure out if something is going to work and you need their help. So you're not like one of those people who's trying to ask for money, but you are simply just trying to get information from them. And if you are polite and well mannered enough, I'm pretty sure a good number of people will say yes and give you a minute of their time. All right, and please make sure, because they don't know who you are, so it's not okay for you to then go into a 5 minute pitch. It has to be as quick as possible. And there are tips that I talked about that you want to just check out as well. Yeah. So then your post page, again, we talked about this. And then the other thing is, so we're going to do a bit of social media as well. So we want you to take photos of you actually pitching. So when you're in action, you're talking about, whether you're talking to an audience or to individuals, or you actually take a photo with some of the people that you were talking to. And if you're posting them to social media, just use the hashtag street pitch. Pitch the WR handle for most of these public events will also be retweeting and sort of amplifying the work that you're doing. Those are going to be pitching at Pitch Night on Friday will also sort of benefit from this, and so that's why we need you to do that. Yes, and also please do invite the people that you talk to Pitch Night on Friday, especially those who become who are interested in what you're going to be talking about and the whole startup issue. Then there are a few points that I've put down that I think you should know. So do not disclose confidential information in your pitch. Focus on the value that you're delivering and not actually how you're doing it. And so you see, you're trying to validate, right? So don't get into this whole thing where you now want to sort of show the person that you know what you're talking about, right? It's one of those default things that people get into when you feel like you're not communicating your value quickly enough. So you just be mindful of that. Of course, be kind and polite and be engaging. So smile and talk and converse properly. Dress appropriately. You're going to be doing quite a bit of walking, so you want to be comfortable. You don't want to be in pain whilst you're trying to pitch to somebody, right? As I was saying, those who can, you should also take your very short Snapchat kind of short videos. So your 5 to 30-second videos. It's more like a running commentary as you're doing your pitches. What we'll then do is we'll work with DesignWorks and with Neo TV to sort of stitch these together into sort of a video that you can then take around to say, look, this is what we did. And I'm sure we have a good number of stakeholders who will be interested in that material. So this is sort of what street pitches are and how it's supposed to work in brief. It's basically a basic pitch, right? It's what we've been practicing, except now we're trying to do it to people who haven't congregated to say, we're here to listen to you. So it's you trying to get their attention and trying to push your value and getting them to understand that value such that they then want to pledge, whether it's a sign up or whatever it is. So, yeah. There's also a bit of, so there are key pointers that we've also put together. And again, these you should have received already. I'll just sort of skim through them, through some of them at least, but please do go through each and one of them, and each and every single one of them, and sort of read and understand them. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the communities. There are a lot of people who are willing to sort of help you with this. So the issue about qualifier questions. So you're hanging out in an area where you think your target customers are, right? But before you go into your 1 minute of pitching to somebody who doesn't even care about your startup or isn't affected by the problem you're trying to solve, you kind of need to start by asking qualifying questions, right? To understand whether they actually fit, your target market. If they do, then you proceed with your entire pitch. If they don't, you can still ask a few more questions to get sort of their opinion or what they might understand, albeit the fact that they're outside of the situation that you're trying to address or solve. And also be very natural. So don't sound like you've crammed your entire pitch. People want to connect with you as an individual, so always be natural and be within your element, right? So dish the details. So don't go into detail about how it works and where it's coming from and all of that. Just straight to the point. And if they want to know more, then they will ask you to say, what do you mean about this and where is this coming from and all of that. And again, you don't want to divulge a whole lot of stuff. So just, keep it clear and straight to the point, right? Also, remember, it's not about you. So don't go at length about, so I did this and I started this at this place and then we did this and then, I feel this way. And it's more about the person that you're trying to interview, the audience, the user, the potential customer. So you want to hear more from them. So you ask them more questions. If they want to hear about you, they will ask, a bit more. So you do your introduction and you quickly get into that because, it's always better. We don't like listening to people who blabber on and on about themselves. It kind of feels like the whole world is trying to shout, listen to me and listen to me. So in this particular situation, you kind of have to listen to the individual, to the customer. And so you pitch your 1 minute or 2 minutes, it's simply to give them context, to give you more information about, the problem and whatever issues they're facing, right? To solve the problem. So don't sound like a solution in search of a problem. So don't sound as though you're saying, look, this is what I've created. Now, is there a problem that this thing can solve, right? It should be the opposite. So don't start by pushing the solution that you have into their faces. Try and understand what they're actually doing and whether they might be interested in the thing that you have. So it's the opposite of, the solution seeking the problem, right? And then the other problem is because people have confidence issues, you're not sure about your business model. What we usually then try and do is we try and pile on features on top of whatever we're talking about, right? So we start talking about we're solving this and between convenience and it's fast and it's efficient. What that does in the grand scheme of things is it makes it seem as though you aren't actually solving one real thing. You have like a ton of small little things that you're trying to solve, and that just confuses everything. So focus on the one key thing that you're solving, and then close to the end, you mentioned those small other issues that you might also be solving in the process. But remember what the real problem is, what the real issue is. And you might then find that your targeted customer, your potential user will then say, actually, this one small thing that you are disregarding, that's my real pain point. And so that's also the whole point of doing this whole thing, right? Make it grandparent proof. This is basically keeping it simple. So, don't use technical terms, don't use business terms and then KPIs and metrics and, traction and business and financial and this and that. Keep it as basic and as simple as possible. Imagine if you're pitching to your grandparents in the raw areas, right? In Shona or in Tebelo, in whatever native language, right? Try and break it down to that level of simplicity, right? That way you communicate easier, and if there's any point that they don't understand, then they can at least ask a question, and then you can sort of try and complicate it a step further for them. But keep it as basic and as simple as possible, right? Also try and grab the listener's attention. But this one, it's in two parts. So a lot of people would then go into salesmanship mode, right? You don't want to be that snake oil salesman who's promising gold out of dust and all of that, right? Don't lie, don't oversell, don't come up to people and say, I'm here to take away all your problems, right? That's not exactly what you're doing. Just be frank, just be truthful, just be to the point. But at the same time, you want to grab their attention and, using a tagline that is interesting, a one-liner that's sort of explaining what you're doing, that piques people's interest, right? So, for example, when we were working on SciSci, we talk about how, we are providing free internet access, right? And so that is exactly what we were doing. And so people would then want to find out how we were doing it and why we were doing it and all of that, right? So just make sure that you don't go into the overselling mode. Stick to what you're saying, stick to what you're already doing, and try and say it in a way that entices your customers. So make them care, right? You see, you're talking about something that has happened to you, you're relating to it, right? So make them also feel like this is something that might affect them or that they should care about. Because when they do that, then they give you more information, right? And naturally, once they start listening to you, the one person that might be going through their brains is, what is in it for me? So why should I be interested in this thing? So make them care, show them that what you have is a solution to a problem that they have, and they should care about this, and they need you to actually solve this problem, right? So also have different pitches. So you're going to meet people who are of different levels of literacy, different levels of appreciation of these things. So you might want to have slightly different pitches. So for your very layman person, for your businessy kind of person, and all of that. And this sort of helps you because as you go on, you're going to have different networking events where you're meeting different people. How you pitch to your partner, how you pitch to a client, how you pitch to a supplier, how you pitch to an investor. It's all very different. So you need to sort of begin to sort of develop, your different pitching strategies and even formats as well, right? Smile, but also shut up, right? And the reason why this is important is, you see, when you're smiling, you're more inviting. So you're not looking at people as though you're interrogating them. You're inviting them and you're saying, look, I need your help. But once you're done with talking about your pitch, right, or about your value, or whatever it is, then stop talking, because half the time you pitch really, really well, but somehow you're looking at the person's facial expressions and you feel like, maybe they didn't understand me. So you start going on and adding on more and more, material and information that's just now diluting the perfect pitch that you're giving, in under 2 minutes. So if they don't understand, you ask, so is this clear, or do I need to, which parts did you not understand, and things like that. Be inquisitive, be the person who's willing to learn. Even if somebody says, look, I don't believe in what you're doing, it's fine. It's a learning process, right? Protect that. So we've already talked about this, right? And the other thing you should understand is the easiest way to steal IP is to act dumb, right? So you'll also find people who seem like they really don't understand what's going on, even if they do, because they simply want you to go on and on and on about what you're building. So you also want to be careful about, your IP, right? Remember that no one is as passionate as you. So you need to really sell what you're doing, right? A good pitch makes your heart race. One of those pitches where you go like, yeah, 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 I feel this person, they're onto something. Even if I don't understand it, I kind of need to understand what they're doing, right? And that is important. So don't be like a lonely, kind of person. So carry your water, carry your mints, keep yourselves, hydrated and energetic, and deliver your pitch with that gusto and that vigor and that clear emphasis that is required of an entrepreneur, right? Focus on your purpose and not your history. So focus on the value that you're giving them, not exactly where you've come from. You can then talk about your history thereafter when you're not saying, also, we're doing this, we did this and this and this when they ask. But right out of the gate, focus on what you're doing and what you want to give, right? Be consistent and conclude with a call to action. So you're going to pitch to this guy and you're going to pitch to somebody else. Maintain consistency in what you're pitching and how you're pitching. And if you're pitching as multiple people, you also want to maintain that consistency, because when you get your billion-dollar valuation, people are going to come up and be like, oh yeah, I remember this guy, he spoke to me in town. Or you're going to meet him, when you have your next client meeting, like, oh yeah, we met in the street. And you don't want to be that guy who's now selling a different story. So now you then seem like a liar. You seem like a person who's not as authentic, right? So stick to your story, stick to the simplicity, stick to the basics, and just tell it as it is. And lastly, close with a call to action. So would you use this application? If you're interested, do you want to sign up right now? Or can I have your contact details that I send you a small document about this? Or can I have your number? I just want to keep you updated as we develop this. So right now we're at this stage, but next week we're going to be at a different stage. So I'd want to drop you an SMS to say, check out this website. This is where we are now, or maybe the product is now in the store, kind of thing. So always conclude with a call to action and thank them for their time. Thank them for for helping you out. Invite them to pitch night so that they come and interact and hear from other people, because I'm pretty sure this is going to pique a lot of people's interest. So that's in short the stuff that I sort of prepared. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, do inbox me, do email me, call me, whatever it is. But make sure you sign up such that we were able to give you support within the CBT. Remember, this is a pilot, so we're also going to be looking for information from you as founders, as members of our very exclusive community. on how we can make this better. So we want to do this nearly. We're going to do this with other people. We're going to do it out there at events. And this is a natural product that we're building that, you're going to be selling as we continue going forward. So I hope this sort of helps clear a few things. And I hope this helps. And I look forward to working with you guys tomorrow on the street pictures. Let's take it out there.